We have all felt it, that moment, usually when we are very young, standing in the backyard, or looking up at the endless, terrifying black of the night sky, when the realization hits us like a physical blow, we are going to end. It wasn't just a thought, it was a sensation, a cold drop of dread in the pit of the stomach. We realized that the I that is listening to this voice, the I that feels and hopes and fears, is temporary. This is the curse of the human condition. We are the only animal on this planet with the cognitive capacity to contemplate our own non-existence, but we do not seem to have the emotional hardware to handle the terror of that thought. While the deer grazes in the meadow, concerned only with the wolf, the human being lies awake at night, consumed by the nothingness. We possess the intelligence to ask why, but the universe often offers only silence. And yet, across every culture, in every era of recorded history, we have refused to accept that silence. We have filled the void with voices. We have populated the empty sky with watchers, judges, fathers, and kings. We likely feel that none of this can be an accident, that there must be a reason we are here, that someone is listening. But what if this feeling, this undeniable pull toward the divine, isn't a revelation from the outside? What if it is a glitch deep on the inside? This is not a story about theology. This is a story about biology. We are going to look at the machinery of belief, not as priests looking at scripture, but as engineers looking at a blueprint. We are going to discover that God wasn't waiting for us in the heavens. We built him, neuron by neuron, to save ourselves from the dark.
To understand this machine, we have to go back. We have to leave the modern world and drift back 200,000 years to the tall grass of the African Savanna. Let us imagine we are early humans. The sun is setting. We are walking through the brush. Our muscles are tense. Our senses are sharp. Suddenly, we hear it, a rustle in the grass. Our brains have two choices. Choice A, we assume it's just the wind, a random physical event. If we are right, we save a few calories by not running. But if we are wrong, and it is a lion, we die. We are removed from the gene pool. Choice B, we assume it is a predator, an agent with intention. We run. If we are right, we survive. If we are wrong, and it was just the wind, we are just a little embarrassed. We lost a bit of energy, but we are alive. Nature, in its ruthless efficiency, selected for the paranoid. We are the descendants of the ones who ran. We are the descendants of the primates who saw faces in the clouds, who heard whispers in the wind, who attributed intention and agency to everything. Cognitive scientists call this the HADD, the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device. Our brains are hardwired to detect agents, beings with minds and motives, even where none exist. It is safer to mistake a rock for a bear than a bear for a rock. But here is the glitch. This system never turns off. A sudden storm isn't just low pressure. It feels like anger. A plague isn't just a virus. It feels like punishment. A stroke of luck isn't just probability. It feels like a blessing. Our brains are predisposed to see purpose, to see a who behind every what. This is called promiscuous teleology. It is the cognitive reflex that makes a child believe rocks are pointy so that animals can scratch themselves. It is the instinct that makes us feel that everything happens for a reason. It felt natural to our ancestors, and it feels natural to us, to assume that if the grass moves because a lion pushes it, then the sun must move because someone pushes it. But the had was just the spark. It created the ghosts. To turn a ghost into a god, the mind needed something else. It needed a reason to keep them around. Our brains possess another superpower, the theory of mind. This is our ability to simulate the minds of others, to know that they have secrets, intentions, and desires. But our brains are promiscuous. We apply this social tool to the empty universe.
We started trying to socialize with the weather. We tried to bargain with the harvest. We projected our own internal experience of mind onto the vacuum of the cosmos. And then, this projected mind was given a job, a desperate, terrifying job, the realization of death. If early humans had simply stared into the abyss of their own mortality, they would have been paralyzed. The cognitive dissonance between the drive to live and the certainty of death is what psychologists call terror management theory. So, the brain engaged a defense mechanism. It took those invisible agents generated by the had, and it repurposed them. The agent wasn't just moving the sun anymore, the agent was watching us, and more importantly, the agent promised that death was not the end. We constructed a narrative where death is not a wall, but a door, where chaos is not random, but a plan, where our lives are not meaningless, but part of a cosmic drama that will outlast our rotting bodies. This is the pipeline of belief. First, the had creates the invisible actor. Second, the theory of mind gives that actor a personality and a motive. Third, terror management theory hires that actor to save us from the fear of death. It is a perfect, self-reinforcing loop, and it is so effective, so evolutionarily advantageous, that it feels like truth, but it is actually a psychological buffer, built to protect the conscious mind from the crushing weight of its own self-awareness. Now, we might ask ourselves, we understand science, we know about evolution and physics. Why does this belief persist? Why do we still feel a sense of awe or a sense of presence? Because the brain is a miser. The brain consumes 20% of our body's energy. Its primary directive is to conserve fuel. It does this by minimizing free energy, which is a fancy way of saying it tries to minimize surprise, chaos, randomness, entropy. These are metabolically expensive. Processing a world that is fundamentally random requires a massive cognitive load. It is stressful. It triggers cortisol. Belief is an attractor state. It is a low-energy resting place for the mind. Attributing the creation of the universe to a god collapses infinite complexity into a single variable: intent. God did it. Instantly, the brain can stop processing. It can rest. This is why apologetics are so seductive. They aren't satisfying because they are logically sound. They are satisfying because they offer cognitive ease. Consider the argument, you can't get something from nothing. Physics tells us that nothing is actually a roiling field of quantum potential, but our brains, our primitive, tool-using brains, cannot simulate quantum fields. We think in terms of pots and pans. A pot needs a potter. So, when we hear, there must be a creator, the brain sighs in relief. It fits the intuition. But here is the trap. The God that people actually believe in, the one they pray to in the hospital waiting room, is not the abstract, unmoved mover of the philosophers. Cognitive scientists call this theological incorrectness. Even if we claim to believe in a God that is everywhere and timeless, in the moment of prayer, the brain is processing something very different. It creates a minimally counterintuitive concept, an MCI, a superhero, a super-peer, a being with a mind like ours, just bigger, a being that is here and listening. Why? Because the brain is using its social circuits, the default mode network, to process God. We are running a simulation of a social interaction, and because it activates our social reward systems, it releases dopamine, it reduces stress, it feels real. We aren't analyzing a metaphysical proposition, we are engaging in a relationship with a simulation running in our own minds.
We must pause here, because if we leave it at this, it sounds like we are saying religion is just a mistake, a delusion of the weak. That would be arrogant, and it would be wrong. Evolution is ruthless. If religion didn't provide a massive survival advantage, it would have been weeded out of the human genome long ago. As our tribes grew larger, beyond the Dunbar number of about 150 people, we faced a crisis. How do we trust a stranger? How do we stop free riders from stealing the food and not contributing to the hunt? Religion evolved into a solution, a moralizing high god, an invisible police officer. This is costly signaling theory. If we are willing to undergo painful rituals, if we are willing to fast, if we are willing to give away 10% of our resources, we are proving that we are committed to the tribe. We are proving we are not sociopaths. And on an individual level, religion is the ultimate Swiss Army knife for the human condition. It gives us a community, instant belonging. It gives us a moral code. We don't have to figure out right and wrong from scratch. It gives us purpose, a role in a grand story. And it gives us comfort, a way to handle the death of a child or a cancer diagnosis. It is an all-in-one survival tool. It is convenient. It is efficient, but the Swiss Army knife has a flaw. It forces us to accept the whole package. To get the community, we have to accept the mythology. To get the comfort, we have to surrender our intellectual honesty. To get the morality, we often have to accept the dehumanization of the other. So, here we are. We are modern humans. We know about DNA. We know about galaxies. We know that thunder isn't an angry sky father, but we still have the needs. We still have the HADD. We still have the terror of death. If we deconstruct the Swiss Army knife, do we just leave ourselves empty-handed, naked in the cold universe? No, we build a new toolbox. We have to recognize that the God glitch is trying to solve real problems, but we can solve them with better, more precise tools. First, the need for explanations. We replace the God of the gaps with science. We accept that "I don't know" is a valid answer. We learn to tolerate the discomfort of mystery without rushing to fill it with a fairy tale. We find secular awe, not in a creator, but in the creation itself. The fact that we are made of heavy elements forged in the hearts of dying stars is infinitely more majestic than being molded from clay. Second, the need for morality. We replace divine command with empathy and reason. We realize that we don't need a celestial surveillance camera to be good. We are social primates. We have mirror neurons. We feel the pain of others. We can build a morality based on well-being, based on the simple reality that we are all stuck on this rock together. Third, the need for community. This is the hardest one. The church was the village square. We have to work harder to build secular communities. We have to find connection in shared human vulnerability, not in shared dogma. And finally, the need for meaning. This is the pivot point. This is where we move from being children of the cosmos to adults. Religion tells us that meaning is something we find, that it is written in a book, that it is handed down from on high. The reality, the terrifying, liberating reality, is that meaning is something we create. There is a concept in psychology called the locus of control. Religion is the ultimate external locus of control. It says, the plan is out there, the power is out there, the outcome is in God's hands. The shift, the awakening, is moving that locus inside. It means accepting the internal locus of control. It means looking at the night sky, seeing the endless, cold, indifferent void, and realizing that it doesn't care about us, it doesn't love us, it doesn't hate us, it just is. To the primitive mind, that is terrifying. To the awakened mind, that is absolute freedom. If the universe has no script, then we are not actors in someone else's play. We are the playwrights. We are the universe experiencing itself. We are the brief, flickering light of consciousness in a billion-year darkness. The fear we feel, that is just the ghost of the savannah. That is just the biological signal of a primate afraid of the dark. We acknowledge it. We thank it for trying to keep us safe. And then we let it go. We don't need the imaginary friend anymore. We don't need the invisible parent. We stand in the open field of the unknown. We feel the wind on our faces, and we recognize that we are walking alone. And that is enough.